endocrine system continued. We're going to talk about the adrenals. I'm just going to draw a bean structure up here, and this is our kidney. Just going to fill that in. And the adrenals sits atop of the kidney. Gonna switch colors. Now this outer blue area that I'm drawing here, and the adrenals are pyramid shape. That's a very crappy pyramid. Well, that's a pyramid now, made an adjustment. This outer blue portion right here is the adrenal cortex. Now the inner portion this is the adrenal medulla. Color coordinated. Draw an arrow here. The adrenal cortex, outer portion, adrenal medulla, inner portion. Now, let's talk about the hormones. Cortisol. Cortisol is interesting. It helps with FFA mobilization. That's free fatty acid mobilization. So FFA, arrow up. Protein synthesis, PRO, arrow up. Gluconeogenesis, production of new sugars. I'm going to call it GLUN, arrow up. And it's also responsible for decreasing glucose utilization. It's very important. I'm going to call it glucose U, arrow down. Now that last part, glucose utilization. Cortisol can either work for you or against you, depending on the situation. Now, it can work for you in exercise and high intensity because it keeps everything ramped up. It keeps you motivated. It keeps you pushing. Free fatty acid mobilization, protein synthesis, gluconeogenesis, that all goes up. You need that. However, that last portion, the drop in glucose utilization, cortisol is also triggered by high levels of stress. Now, when you're doing high intensity exercise, your cortisol levels go up. When you're doing low intensity exercise, like a brisk walk, cardio, or a light jog, it goes down. And there's a relationship with that. Which is why exercise physiologists recommend you do light exercises to decrease your stress. High intensity exercise increases stress, but only temporarily. And that temporary boost isn't going to have a maladaptive effect because you're not going to be in that state any more than an hour if you're doing a regular exercise session. Cortisol becomes a problem when you have prolonged periods of stress. So, when you have a prolonged period of stress, and one of the main objectives of cortisol is to decrease glucose utilization, keyword, glucose utilization. With that cortisol level being high and that glucose utilization being low, that means that your body is going to store the excess glucose as fat, which is why it is best to mellow out, do some light exercises, go out for a brisk walk or something of the nature to lower your stress levels. So that way your glucose utilization levels will go up. You want your glucose levels in this instance to go up because it decreases adiposity. There you have it. Then you have aldosterone. Aldosterone is involved with blood pressure and your plasma potassium levels. So it increases plasma volume, plasma up, potassium up. Instead of writing out the word potassium, I'm just going to write K up. K is the symbol for potassium. And it helps regulate blood pressure. Or at least it's triggered by low blood pressure. So it's gonna raise your blood pressure. And aldosterone also goes up during exercise. Now we're gonna come down to the adrenal medulla or the adrenal medulla, depending on your vowel emphasis. Yeah, epinephrine and norepinephrine. Epinephrine, when it's secreted, according to the text that I've read, give or take, it's gonna be 80% of the two. Norepinephrine is gonna be the remaining 20, give or take, depending on the individual. Epinephrine and norepinephrine are also your stress hormones. So, in essence, epinephrine and norepinephrine is responsible for your heart rate, stroke volume, and glycogenolysis, or it's, rather than give you that tongue twister, it helps produce glycogen. So, glycogen up. And what is glycogen? Glycogen is the fuel your muscles use to do work. It's like that special kind of CHO, CHO being the main fuels that we use. It's in our fats, it's in our sugars. Glycogen is that stuff that we use in our muscles to continue to, do our tasks, whether it be exercise or what I'm doing right now, talking with my hands. Your muscles need glycogen in order to work. And epinephrine and norepinephrine is triggered by high emotion and stress as well. So in essence, you want your hormones to work for you and not against you. So you want them to work for you in exercise, assuming that you're not overtraining, as opposed to them working against you during high stress. So whenever you hear someone talking about cortisol or an adrenaline rush, it all goes back to the adrenals. That's the lesson for the evening. And hang 10, we're going to talk about more glands and more hormones in the next video. Thanks for hanging 10 once more. This is Dr. Dean. You all take care.